Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the third series in our Difference Makers Discuss. Hi to all the chartered accountants worldwide who have dialed in to listen to this, and I know we are in for a treat as we speak today to Kovini Moodley, our South African representative. So before we turn the dial to Kovini, I do want to introduce you because, as I say, we are in for a real treat here. Kovini is a chartered accountant, a philanthropist, a change activist, and the founder of Boss Babes of South Africa, which I am super excited to hear about. She is passionate about utilising her skills, knowledge, and academic learnings to uplift and inspire the community of women and to drive transformative change. So with an introduction like that, Kovini, I can't wait to hear your story. So do you want to try and tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are today, why you maybe chose chartered accountancy, and we can take it from there?
Absolutely. So I hail from a little town called Shelcross, south of Durban in KZN in South Africa. My earlier childhood days were shaped with a very nurturing community, a lot of love. And I attribute that to my success that I have today. I think growing up in a small town, those who have, what a community-driven spirit comes with, having your neighbors come and support you, having everyone in the community just aligned to your goals and your growth and what you want to be. At a really young age, I had role models that had become chartered accountants within the community. And that's where it started for me. I would watch the impact that they would make in terms of mentoring and tutoring accounting students around me. And that's sort of how it stemmed in my idea that's the way it stemmed in my brain at that point, that I wanted to pursue the chartered accountant profession. I found it fascinating. I found that there were different avenues that you could go into as a CASA. And that's really where the idea was born. And I think it just, got bigger and bigger as I progressed from primary school to high school. And then as I entered high school, I, of course, found myself with a lot more mentors around me in the community. So that was very inspiring to have people to look up to and then really, help to solidify the dream that I had.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. And your training, Kovini, did you train in a practice or what?
Yeah. So after I completed my high school education, I went on to complete my tertiary, so BCom and what we call your CTA honors in order to be able to write your board exams. I was really excited to join Deloitte South Africa at that point. Really, really incredible, I want to say, milestone in my career. I think that is what I want to also attribute to being a key success factor in terms of the foundational elements that they were able to help me with, the technical expertise, the aim for excellence, which is what Deloitte is all about even today. So I think for me, it was really being within that type of environment, being within other young CAs also chasing the same dream. That really helped us to focus on collaboration in terms of our learnings, in terms of getting better at what it was that we're trying to do. So after I completed my articles with Deloitte, I then ventured on to the world of management consulting with Accenture South Africa, and I absolutely loved that. I think from my earlier days, I knew that I was really big on problem solving. I would often solve problems in the community that we grew up in. I could never resonate with people that went on about complaining about a situation. I would quickly bring them back and say, okay, so guys, are you done? Can we get to a solution? So, working in a management consulting firm, a global multinational like Accenture South Africa, it really helped to help me to gain the necessary exposure across more than 22 JSE listed companies. At the time that I spent at Accenture South Africa, it was 4 years. I loved the diversity of the type of work. I loved the fact that every day was completely different. And it would just be focused on strategy and coming up with solutions. The other thing that I also loved was that in a team, you would have different skill sets together that you would be leading. You would have IT, you would have HR, you would have a host of different skills, even engineers together with CAs. We even had a doctor once that was helping to contribute to the solution. So I think that diversity of different minds coming together to solve problems for these, JSE listed companies was really fulfilling, and brought me a lot of contentment.
Fantastic, and I know DE&I is a passion of yours, and we'll come back to that a little bit later. But I completely agree that when there's such a diverse group there of skill sets, it can lead to some magic. Come here, I'm absolutely dying to hear about Boss Babes of South Africa. Love the name, but tell me about it. When you founded it, why did you found it, and all of that?
Absolutely. So we were going into lockdown in 2020. That was around March of 2020. And I think there was just a lot of fear. There was a lot of uncertainty with my own community, my friends, other CAs. And I thought to myself, we're going to be locked indoors, which, by the way, I was not very happy with, because I like going out and I love socializing and, lending my voice to different causes. And it meant now that we were going to be indoors. And I thought to myself, again, solution driven, what can I do with this extra time? What can I, put my voice forward, put my skills towards, and build a brand, build something where women can collaborate, over competing. Because I think there's this narrative that there can only be one woman that wins at the top of an organization. And that competition sometimes does not drive the best type of human values as well. So I think for me, it was really about lending my voice to the platform. And it really started as a hobby, because I just thought, every single day I'm going to have 4 or 5 hours after my working day completes. And, what can I do that I love and that could also impact the world in a positive way? And that's really how the concept of Boss Babes of South Africa started. I would go on there. My main platform was Instagram, and I literally started with 5 followers. So, that was my twin sisters and 3 of my cousins who thought, it's a hobby. Let's just support her. But what I didn't realize was just being, authentic to myself, being true to my own value system, and using my voice to speak about things that were relevant at that time. And I think the big thing at that time was the COVID pandemic. It was the challenges that people were facing with mental health. And I would go on there and really just share my lived experiences, my life experiences. And little did I know that, that was the start of something really phenomenal, that it would grow. It grew phenomenally in the first year. And by the end of the year, 2020, I had, tons of the leading media houses reach out to me and want to interview and publish about the concept of Boss Babes of South Africa. In essence, it is a female empowerment brand that focuses on, skill sharing is one component of it. The second is turning pain into power, which is where we go live with, I don't like the word celebrity, but we go live with really influential women in South Africa via Instagram Live. And we really help to shape the narrative around sharing content that is vulnerable, sharing content that speaks to one's struggles and how you manage to overcome those struggles. I think we live in a world of social media where often what we see is just highlight reels. We see airbrushed perfection. And I wanted to bring a more realness to the platform. And that's really where I started turning pain into power as a regular slot on my platform. And then the third component has really been on, focusing on relatable, relevant daily content. And that is aligned with, women chasing their dreams, women being appreciative of the journeys that they have experienced, because everyone comes from a very different background, different levels of support and that sort of thing. And I really wanted to break the barriers around the fact that irrespective of where you come from, your dreams are valid and it's something that needs to be honored. And the fourth thing that I've recently launched is mentorship and coaching. And I've been doing that for the last few months. It's brought me a ton of joy, really focusing on CAs. But in the new year, I'm looking to expand on that and start to focus more on any skill, really. I think with my 15 years of corporate experience, I really feel ready to be able to lend my skills, my voice, and empower those that are starting off in the professional world.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. And there are so many things that I want to drill down on in that. The first one, I like that phrase, turning pain into power. Is that what you said? Turning pain into power. And you talked about lived experiences and what was the messaging that was coming out on that? Just all about the importance of mental well-being or what?
Yeah, I think that there's power in sharing your stories, your unique stories, your lived stories. I think we just live in a world where, like I said, everything is so airbrushed. People are sharing their highlight reels. Um, often social media only focuses on you sharing the most amazing things that have happened in your life. But I think the realness comes in us sharing the challenges that we had to overcome, the difficult situations that we may have found ourselves, and the doors that we had to break down to get to where we are today. I think there's just tons of power in us owning that story and owning that narrative and speaking truth to power in our own way.
Wow, that's great. And I know that as we're talking about, the well-being, there is a very, very strong well-being hub in chartered accountants worldwide. So it's certainly something that's worthwhile looking into. Kovini, when we talked earlier in the month, you introduced me to an interesting phenomenon which you called PhD syndrome. Do you want to tell the listeners a bit about that?
So this actually came up in a conversation that friends and I were having. I know it's really big in the States and they use it a lot and everyone's very familiar with it. But it's called PhD syndrome and it's called pull her down syndrome. That's actually what it stands for. And I think my own lived experiences, the experiences of those closest to me, it really has been a very relevant topic in terms of, coming back to the fact that as women, we've sort of been conditioned that we need to compete with each other to the point that it actually becomes unhealthy, or that's been, my experience of observing it. And I really wanted to focus on the fact that we don't need to be pulling each other down. We don't need to be criticizing each other as women. There's power when we stand together. There's power when we collaborate. And most importantly, with Boss Babes of South Africa, there's power in when we come together and share our skills. Because what you're naturally good at may be, something that someone else, you'd want to learn from someone else or vice versa. So I really believe there's power in us leveraging our unique strength. And I think what's really sad from my observation is that a lot of people, sort of look to others and want to copy their journey, and they forget to actually look within themselves and find what is my true unique power? Because I really believe we all landed up here on earth with a really unique power, unique skill, whatever it may be. And I think it's very important sooner rather than later to be able to find what is that soul spark, as I call it. What is that thing in your life that you're just so naturally good at that people gravitate towards you for it? It feels effortless. It feels like you're in the flow. And that's really what I've been using my platform for. One of the things I've been using my platform for is for people to start to reflect, spend time with yourself, reflect on who you are. Because for me, knowing who you are and knowing why you're here on earth are probably two of the biggest questions that you want to get answers to sooner in life rather than later.
So finding your purpose, and I know it is something that is critical for Gen Z, and I know the attractiveness of the profession. It's a big thing for us to show that there is a purpose in our profession, and try to sell it that way. It's interesting what you say there about women competing and rather than maybe collaborating. Do you see that more with females to females, do you, than with males? Why do you think that is?
All I can say is that it could be societal conditioning. I don't really know the answer to it, but I can only speak from my, experience as a female. I think that's why that opinion may be a little bit biased. But it just feels like, there's this notion that, you've probably heard it, that women are catty towards each other, or when someone new joins, an organization or environment, they don't kind of get a warm welcome and a warm reception for whatever reason that is. And using my platform is really what I wanted to do, to break those barriers, to say, if you're feeling a sense of jealousy or envy towards someone, there's probably a lot of internal work that needs to be done. And, do that, because you may find that your skill set lies somewhere else, your passion lies somewhere else. And, I really believe that if you're playing from the strength of authentic power, there really is no competition. But I know that a lot of us are not.
Okay, that's very interesting. And look, I think what you say there is very true. And I know there's quite a famous Irish businesswoman here in Ireland, and she uses the phrase that there's a special place in hell for a female that doesn't help another female in business. And I certainly think it's up to us to reach in and help others. You talked there about your platform, and let's just put this into context. Your following is now, I hope I've got this right, 27,000 on Instagram and 62,000 on LinkedIn. Is that right, or has it got bigger?
Yeah, it's actually a little bigger. On LinkedIn, it's a combined following of 100,000. So my personal account with Boss Babes South Africa. So it's been an incredible journey, I didn't pay a single rand for advertising on LinkedIn just to put it out there. So completely organic growth. And I think that just speaks to, having a very strong content strategy and knowing your audience. Because if you know your audience, then you know the type of content that you want to put out there. If you know what's relatable to the women of South Africa, then you align your content, to put the type of content out there that people value. And that's probably one of the biggest tips that I can leave, our audience with today is, irrespective of what profession you're in, make sure that you're finding a way to add value to the lives of others, to inspire, to motivate, because that's completely free, right? All it takes is a little bit of, will, a little bit of intention. And I believe that we all can do it. You don't have to do it on a public platform. But you could do it, if you're mentoring young females at work, or if you're helping out a neighbor, or you're helping someone in your environment. It doesn't have to be on a very public scale, but I believe that we all have the power to impact at least just one person every single day.
Fantastic. And I mean, that following is phenomenal. So well done on that. I think what also comes across when you look at your content, and you've talked about it there, is being your true authentic self. And I think listeners and audiences really relate to that. They know when people are acting, let's be honest. But you are a true authentic person. The social media, I mean, it's obviously been good to you, but have you seen some of the downsides of it? I don't want to go all negative on it, but there is some downsides to social media, and there's some really not pleasant people out there. Have you had experience of that?
Absolutely. I was saying to a friend the other day that if I had started my social media journey earlier than I have, I probably would have struggled, because I think the world out there is just, filled with perfection. You scroll through Instagram, everyone's living the life, everyone has, is traveling, everyone is doing all these various things. I'm just glad that I started my journey a little bit later, when I was more mature, when I had grown a thicker skin. Because I know it is challenging. I've got young nieces and, young nephews, and they look up to me, but I know that their challenges sometimes hit them very hard, because they're starting the world of social media at 16, for example. They've got access to Instagram, and, it becomes this comparison trap. What someone else has is what they want, and if they don't have it, then they start to struggle. And I think for me, I've just been rather fortunate, firstly, by starting a little bit later and knowing myself well enough so that, whenever you put yourself out there in the public environment, you are going to get criticism, right? Irrespective of what you're doing. We can't get away from that. But I think knowing myself and knowing the values that I stand for is not something that I could ever negotiate about. And that's what I've brought to my platform. I want to say that 99.9% of it has been really positive, but you do get the odd comment or the odd direct message that comes in, and someone's got an alternative opinion. I think it's just about the way you receive that, the way it's said, and I'm all about taking constructive criticism if that's something that is coming from that. But if it's just downright, if I could say, it's just downright, you want to say something just to be noticed, then it's not something that I am going to invest my energy and my time on.
I think that's a really, really powerful statement, because it is so easy to focus on the negatives. It really is. And as you say, 99.9% are lovely comments, but it's very easy to focus on that 0.1%. But if listeners take one thing from this podcast, it's maybe that, try and focus on the positives and ignore the nasty comments. But it's hard.
It is hard. And like I say, for the youth of today, I can just imagine how much more difficult it is for them starting this journey and having icons, having influencers, having, these names that they're looking up to. I think I've also just wanted to help the youth of South Africa and help my mentees to find people that you follow that actually inspire you. If you're following someone and their content is draining you, you feel worse about your own life after looking at their content, then that shouldn't be something that you want to follow. And I think the good thing with Instagram is that you have the power to decide what you want to give your energy to, what you want to follow, what type of content you want to consume. And I think if you focus on that principle, then, the ball is in your court in terms of the way you curate what it is you're looking at.
Brilliant. You touched there on mentees. And you mentioned that I think that the fourth pillar or the fifth pillar in Boss Babes is about mentorship and coaching. What's your vision on that, Kovini? Are you going to match people, or how's it going to work?
I have started to match a few people. At the moment, I've got 11 young chartered accountants that have entered the professional space, and I mentor them. So we have Zoom calls, we have one-on-one calls, we have bench sessions, whatever it is that they need. I've been supporting them. This has been for the last 2 years. And I think it's just another way that I'm able to give back, another way that I'm able to use my skills and experience in a more professional aspect to kind of develop them and help them to be corporate ready. I think that's definitely something that a lot of young professionals need today. You're going in with the technical experience, you're going in with great qualifications, you've got it all, but I think sometimes you need to sort of adjust to environments when you enter there. And that's sort of what my coaching and mentorship has been about. It's really been about sharing my own experiences in terms of how I managed to maneuver through that landscape. And I think after 6 to 12 months, within an environment, you have a better feeling as to whether that particular environment is aligned with your value system or not. So I think it's really been very valuable for them. And I think I also learn a lot from, the younger generation when they share their insights with me and the way that they think. It's completely different to us. And I think it's also very futuristic, which I love. I love that the fact that they're entering an organization at 22 and they've already got a vision for themselves at 25, at 28, at 30. These are the things they've defined for themselves. I can't say that I've done that for various reasons, but that's really, the generation that we are exposed to these days. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's so great to be intentional and to have purpose around where you want to be, what your growth plan looks like. And I think there's also limited shyness for sharing that. They're really open about, having those conversations with their leaders. So I think it's been an incredible 2 years for me lending my voice and being able to shape these young souls. It's definitely brought me a ton of experience, but as going into 2024, I want to start to leverage in some of the other boss babes of South Africa. So we've got doctors, pilots, lawyers. And I think that for the young professionals entering that space, I'd love to be able to do that match and put them in touch with someone who's better equipped to help them with their particular industry.
Fantastic. That's great. And I completely agree with you. I work a lot with the next gen. At the moment, it's kind of my theme for my presidential year. And I am just blown away by their confidence. But also, and I know this sounds contradictory, but their humility. I mean, they know where they want to go to, and they're not shy about saying it, but they do it in a nice professional way. So I think we have so much to learn from the next gen. So I think that's a lovely message to send. ED&I, Kovini, we could talk about it for hours, but forever. If I was to say to you, what is maybe your biggest concern in the space, or what's your biggest wish in the space? What would it be for business, for employers, for anyone?
Yeah. I think having this platform has just given me tons of insight into what women are experiencing on a day-to-day basis. And I think when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we call it DEI. It's very important. But I think there needs to be greater conversations. And I think there needs to be more transparency around the way it's actually implemented. I notice, everyone talks about it. But I think for me, the proof of the pudding is in the tasting. So for me, it is really about, you can have diversity, equity, inclusion, but the fundamental, I want to say, outcome for me is about belonging. I think we don't talk about belonging enough, right? So belonging is if you enter a particular space, a party, wherever you may be. Belonging for me is that they're actually going to be playing your music. They're not just going to have a seat for you at the table. The music that they're going to play for you is that they have researched what you like and they're putting it out there. And that contributes to, I want to say, an analogy around belonging. I think for me, the days of having a seat at the table it's great, but coming with that seat at the table needs to be the recognition, needs to be the reward, and most importantly for me, needs to be able to utilize your voice. At the point is having a seat at the table, and when you say something or when you bring an alternate view, which is the whole point of you being there, that it's disregarded or not taken seriously. I think that is the true element of diversity. Can everyone on that table bring forward a unique perspective? And can that perspective be, appreciated, considered, even if it's not chosen, can it be appreciated, considered, and valued? I think for me, that is the true essence of when we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and ultimately feeling like when you enter a space or an environment, that you actually belong there, that people make you feel welcome enough that you belong there.
Mm-hmm. And I'm presuming that you believe that if that is not the case, or if we witness, people not doing that along the way, it's incumbent on us to speak up, and probably particularly the leaders to speak up and say it's not right and it's not appropriate.
Absolutely. I think being a bystander in certain cases is probably one of the worst things that you can do for yourself. It doesn't represent the entire profession well, I could put it that way. Being a bystander to bullying, for example, harassment, not being treated fairly, pay parity. All these are unfortunately real challenges that the women of South Africa face. And I think for me, having women firstly speak up on behalf of themselves, and then having people that support that conversation is really important. Because if you're the only one speaking up about a particular challenge or a situation or a concern, then, you could be faced with being victimized or people labeling you as a problem child or whatever the case is. I think it's very important to have people that are there to support your sort of angle of what you're trying to raise. Because if you don't raise these issues, if you don't bring it out, if you don't start having real conversations, authentic conversations about it, personally, from my experience, I think it's very difficult to actually drive that transformative change that I keep speaking about. You'll be able to have it on paper, you'll be able to have it, publicized, but you won't be able to actually see it and feel it when you're within a particular environment.
Yeah. And I also know from talking to you earlier that you'd have quite strong views on unconscious bias. Is that right? And the impact that has, and how we can maybe change that. Talk to me a bit about that and what you've witnessed.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of narratives sometimes when, women are in leadership positions and you're considered to be weak, or the minute you speak up, then you're considered to be a problem or, too much. There's a stereotype of the angry Black woman. I don't know if you've heard about it, but when you speak up as a woman of color, it's sometimes not received in the right way. It becomes about your tone. It's what they refer to as tone policing. It becomes about the tone of what you're saying rather than the actual content of what you're trying to raise. It's almost like a diversion away from what we should actually be addressing and speaking up on. So I think for me, that's really important when we talk about, unconscious bias, because I think there's still a lot of learning that needs to happen in this space. And, the onus lies on each leader, irrespective of what industry you're in, to be able to do that work. There are fantastic consulting companies, in the country and I know worldwide as well, that offer this, that really break it down so that you know that, these are the following things that I should not be saying. These are the following, terminology that I should not be saying. Just in my own lived experience, it just feels like, I don't know if it's intentional or unintentional. It's hard to say, but there's a lot of things that leave me sometimes questioning when someone says something to me, just person to understand the repercussions of what they're saying and the way it may be, interpreted by me. So I think there is learning that needs to happen, but before the learning part, there needs to be acknowledgement. Because if you don't acknowledge something, it's very hard for you to then go and, take action, get the training, bring in the various consulting firms. Here in South Africa, we've got a fantastic consulting firm called Mandate Malofi, and they really focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging training. They do an incredible job. I've experienced them a few times in my career. And there's help available. You just got to be, I guess, open and receptive to want to learn. Because I think that contributes to inclusiveness. Saying the right things, saying the right things in context contributes to an inclusive environment and ultimately, contributes towards what we call psychological safety.
Yeah. It so does. And I think there does. I think your point of people need to be open to the training is really true, because I did a bit of unconscious bias training in my firm and I kind of thought, I have no unconscious bias. I'm so on top of this. We all do. I was shocked. At my results, and it really made me focus on, okay, I've now got to work on this and to act on it. But so yeah, everyone needs to be open to it and take the learnings as they come. And look, just to round off this topic, there is another hub I want to direct our listeners to. It is the ED&I hub in Chartered Accountants Worldwide, and I think there's some really good information that sits on that hub. So, Kovini, as you look forward, you've got so much under your belt. You've achieved so much, but I have no doubt that there is future plans, future items you want to develop. Can you talk a little bit about some of your plans for the go forward?
Absolutely. So in 2024, we really want to focus more on my podcast that was recently launched. It's called Kovini Speaks. We have just completed recording season 1, and we'll put up all the social media hashtags and the highlights as soon as it is available and it goes live. The other thing that we want to focus on is amplifying the voices that come through to the Boss Babes of South Africa platform. I think it's really important to have diverse views coming forward and for everyone to be able to lend their voice to transformative conversations, because that's really what it's all about. I really see 2024 being a year of further transformation. I think in 2023, I've had the opportunity to speak truth to my own power. And I definitely see 2024 being a year of alignment that I want to be able to align with environments, with people, with projects. I really want to align with projects that are closely linked to my own purpose and passion. And that's really where my focus will be for 2024.
Fantastic. Well, I have no doubt that whatever you put your mind to, Kovini, you will be an absolute success. You are a powerhouse. You are a joy to talk to, a breath of fresh air. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep advocating for women, for ethnic minorities, for everyone. And I wish you the very best of luck in your future. And thank you so much for taking time to talk to us today.
Such a pleasure. Thank you, Sinead. Thank you, everybody. It's been an honor to be featured here. And I really hope to hear from the community as well. I really hope that you will connect with me on Instagram or LinkedIn. It's at Kovini Moodley. We also have a website called www.bossbabesofsouthafrica.co.za. You can register on there and be a part of our newsletter. But I'd really love to have conversations post this and be able to authentically connect with the CAs worldwide.
Thanks a million. Well, you heard that request direct from Kovini, so log on to those websites and engage. And thank you so much for joining us again for the third in the series of Difference Makers Discuss. We will be putting out details of our next guests, and thank you very much for sticking with us. Kovini, thank you very much. Goodbye, good day, good evening, wherever anyone is in the world.